So tonight we'll be having a special harmonium concert accompanied by tabla and by Kedar Naphade, who is a leading concert harmonium soloist, accompanist, and educator specializing in Indian classical, semi-classical, devotional, ghazal, and folk music. Over a performance career spanning more than 30 years, Kedar Naphade has been featured as a soloist and accompanist at numerous concerts in India, US, Canada, and Europe. This includes prestigious venues such as the Carnegie Hall and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. He has also performed at numerous devotional and spiritual concerts and ashrams and events. And playing on tabla is Dr. A. Pavan, PhD, based in the Twin Cities areas of Minnesota, is a tabla player and teacher. He initially trained in tabla under Sri G. Lakshmiya and has studied with several masters over the years. He presently trains with Sri Rajendra Nakod and Ustad Shabir Nisar. He has performed for Katha Dance Theatre, Panegia World Theatre, and Indian Music Society of Minnesota in several productions and concerts. Dr. A. Pavan also appears on recordings of world fusion music with many Minnesota-based artists. Dr. Pavan co-composed and performed with Nirmala Rajashekar the score for Pangaea World Theatre production, Petitions in 2002, and the score for 5 weeks in 2017 was Dr. Pooja Goswami Pavan, his wife, who is a Hindustani vocalist, teacher, and composer. So we're very happy to welcome them both tonight to begin our special symposium. So let us give a very big hand to Kedar Naphade and Dr. A. Pavan. Let's give a big hand for Raj also.
Om Namah Shivaya. There is going to be one more annoying sound you will hear before we start, which is disconnecting to my phone.
Battery 80%. Connected to iPhone.
All right. I can't possibly express in words what a honor, privilege, and joy it is to be with all of you here today. And I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Sarojji, Swamiji, and everybody here, Gauri Devi ji, Elizabeth ji, who's been so warm over the last couple of days I've been here. I'd like to dedicate this concert to the memory of Pandit G.S. Sachdev ji and Lakshmi Shankar ji. I think about 20 years ago, I met both of them for the first time in Sivananda Ashram in upstate New York. I think I had a chance of meeting Sachdev ji maybe one more time in those years. But as I was telling Swami ji earlier today, Lakshmi Shankar ji, who's one of the foremost singers of our time in both devotional and thumri genres. She, for many years, I toured the nation with her, and she was just like another grandmother for me. So being here is very special because the first time I met her was at Sivananda Ashram in New York. It's also special because I think this is the first time a solo harmonium concert is being presented here. Perhaps the first time in the Bahamas. At yesterday's Ganesha Homa, Swamiji taught us that Lord Ganesha is the remover of obstacles, physical, emotional, intellectual and spiritual, if I remember that right. And it's a tradition to pray to Lord Ganesha at the beginning of every new project. So I'd like to offer my prayers before I start my solo harmonium performance. I am not a singer, but I'm going to just chant a couple of verses before I start my classical rendition. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru me Deva Shubha Karyeshu Sarvada. Lord Ganesha is also manifest as our gurus. And yesterday Swamiji also taught us that Goddess Saraswati is who represents knowledge, also represents the Guru Parampara, the lineage of gurus. And we wouldn't have been here today but for our gurus. So I'll chant prayer to the Guru Parampara. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmad Guru Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. I'd like to pay respects to the lineage of our gurus. And in the lineage that I come from, my guru, who taught me harmonium since I was 8 or 9 years of age, and I had him for 35 years in my life, the late Pandit Tulsidas Borkar, one of the greatest maestros of the harmonium in contemporary times. But for his contributions, I don't think I would be here performing a solo harmonium recital in front of you. And I also learned from Srimati Padmavati Shaligram, who was a grand diva of Hindustani classical music, vocalist of the Atarauli Jaipur Gharana. So I'd like to pay respects to my gurus. I'll begin my recital today. How much time do we have? When do we need to stop? with a traditional classical music presentation. Indian classical music, as many of you probably know, is also known as Raga music. And Raga is a melodic framework. And this is music which is somewhat abstract. The chants that I sang, both of them, the shlokas, were based in Raga melody, a very age-old traditional melody called Raga Yaman. And the performer in classical Indian music works within that melodic framework of that rag and explores all the possibilities. And we are beside a huge ocean. Each rag is like an ocean, and this certainly is one which thousands of great artists before me and equal number after me, I'm sure, will try to explore and find. Instrumental music, classical music, is particularly a little more abstract. There is no song, there are no words. We just chanted the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita before dinner. There's a verse in there, Kleshodhikarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukham dehavadbhirvapyate. It's difficult to go from devotion to name and form to devotion of the abstract, of the inner fullness which is boundless and changeless. And instrumental classical music starts helping you take a step in that direction, because you are at least detaching yourself from the words and the meanings of the words, and you are starting to explore more abstract ideas. So starting with the chants, which were actually based in the same melody, we will now move to the instrumental recital. As is the tradition, this recital will be in three different movements. Initially, there will be a section without percussion. This is called alap, where we unfold the melody, almost like a flower is slowly blooming. And then subsequently, Pavan will join me on tabla, and we will have a movement in slow tempo. And then a movement in faster tempo as the performance rises in tempo and a little bit of excitement towards a crescendo. So I hope you enjoy it. Anything that you like, the credit goes to my gurus, and all the mistakes I make will be uniquely mine. Now I'll play a traditional composition which is set to a 10-beat rhythm cycle called Tal Jhap Tal, which goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's the rhythmic breakdown for those so inclined to follow. And this composition was taught to me by my guru, Pandit Tulsidas Borkar. It was taught to him by Pandit Ganapat Bua Purohit, who was a vocalist and disciple of the legendary Bhaskar Bua Bakhale. And he was also a harmonium player who used to accompany the legendary Abdul Karim Khan Sahab. Again, remembering to acknowledge our Guru Parampara. we'll go to the fast tempo piece, which is in 16-beat cycle, tal, teen tal. And this second composition is actually composed by my Guruji, Pandit Tulsidas Borkar.